In this video, I'm going to go over the average weight loss for 4 pretty popular ways of dieting. We're going to cover keto, intermittent fasting, these new GLP-1 agonist drugs, and finally, calorie counting. So we're going to go through each of them individually. We will start with keto. Keto, basically, the ketogenic diet is a high-fat, less protein, and almost most of the time no carbohydrates. It's certainly no processed carbohydrates. And this was invented or discovered as a way of trying to treat seizures. And keto diet does have an advantage over a lot of other ways of diet, that it does seem to select for body fat. So when you lose weight, you can lose water weight, you can lose muscle mass. You definitely don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that, but you like seeing the scale go down, and muscle weighs a lot, so you can see a lot of weight loss when you lose muscle, but obviously we don't want to do that. And then you can lose body fat. So basically those 3 buckets. And the keto diet does seem to select for losing body fat more readily than muscle mass. So one study found that participants lost an average of 44 pounds in about 4 months. And other studies have shown weight loss of about 1 to 2 pounds per week, which is, again, right in line with that 4-month average. The big downside with keto is that it's difficult to stick to. It's difficult to eat a whole bunch of fat, not a lot of protein, and almost no carbohydrates day after day, week after week, month after month, and then year after year. Again, when we think about losing weight, we want to lose weight, but we don't want to regain it again. So we need to do things that we can transition into the real world, real life forever. And if not, you're gaining the weight back. So it does lead to a high percentage of people having to continually repeat keto as they stop, regain the weight, stop, and regain the weight over and over again. So that is kind of a big disadvantage. And there are also some doctors of the opinion that keto diet's not safe in the long term as well. So it is meant to be more of a short-term fix. So next, let's talk about intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting simply means restricting the time during a day when you eat. So instead of eating like the old school way of thinking was eat a bunch of small meals all throughout the day, whereas intermittent fasting would be don't eat for long stretches of the day and concentrate eating your food in a small window. And the most typical ways of doing this on a daily basis would be either the 16-8 schedule or the 18-6 schedule, which basically means 16 hours you're not eating, 8 hours you are eating, or 18 hours you're not eating and 6 hours you are eating. So this is much easier because it doesn't require you watching what you eat, macro counting, counting calories, or anything like that. Although doing these things along with intermittent fasting can be considerations. Also, other benefits of intermittent fasting, again, according to some research, include a potential for this metabolic flip of a switch that can reduce things like cancer rates, increase longevity, and increase stress resistance. And it's difficult to find many studies or information about drawbacks to intermittent fasting. I just can't find any. So it seems to be a pretty healthy thing that you can do. And as far as weight loss goes, one study showed that weight loss of about 7 to 11 pounds was average over a 10-week period of time. So that would average out to about 1 pound per week. So that is obviously a little slower than what I just quoted for the keto diet, but it does seem that a greater fasting window, so moving from the 8-hour eating window to the 6-hour eating window and have a greater fasting window from 16 hours to 18 hours does lead to a little bit better results. But what you're doing is sacrificing the speed. It seems to be very healthy. There are other health benefits besides just weight loss, but it's going to be a little slower. I mean, 1 pound a week is still really good, but a little slower than the other methods. All right, moving on to what's really popular, big right now, at least as of the posting of this video. We will see what happens in the future. And these are the GLP-1 agonist drugs that are now being used for weight loss. We're talking about things like Wegovy, Zepbound, Ozempic, Mounjaro, those medications, and there are others. And we'll start with the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room are the side effects. So there are known side effects that can be pretty severe, and the main one is digestive issues, nausea, vomiting. In some severe cases, your digestive system actually shuts down. It's absolutely crazy. There's actually lawsuits going on right now about that particular side effect. Some doctors also speculate that these medications may be linked to pancreatitis, reduced collagen and elastin production, which may lead to that kind of wrinkly, saggy skin and vision problems. And it's also, these drugs are also ineffective in about 20% of the people that take them. So about 1 out of 5 patients that take these drugs, they just don't work on. And also the long-term effects are not very well understood because there's not a lot of really long-term studies of using these medications in the ways that they're being used to help patients lose weight. And because of these factors, it's estimated that just over half of the people that start these medications quit them before fully being able to see the benefit. And stopping these medications almost always leads to weight regain and up to 40% of the weight that you lose, and maybe even a little bit more. So when you lose weight, again, you can lose muscle, fat, or water, and up to 40% of the weight that you're losing on these drugs can be muscle mass. So that means when you regain, if you go off of the medications, you've likely skewed your body composition numbers to have more body fat, even if you just go up to the same weight. That's a concept called ratcheting. I've done a full video on that. All right, so what about the weight loss? What is the average weight loss? So one study showed that these medications can help you lose between 5 and 15% of your body weight. And with an average starting weight of study participants of 230 pounds, this equates to a 35-pound loss. So again, there are pluses and minuses, again, with each of these methods that I'm going to talk about. Most people, again, 80% of the people will lose weight and with these drugs, and it is the easiest thing to do. Simply taking an injection and then just going about your life is obviously very, very easy, but the trade-off again is that you become reliant on the medication, because if you go off of the medication, almost again, always you regain the weight, and you have to deal with the potential known side effects and the potential for side effects that we don't even know about. All right, so we will finally move on to calorie counting. This has been the gold standard for decades for weight loss, to do it predictably, accurately, and kind of by the numbers. It is a full numbers game with calorie counting. It's the most straightforward. It is the most predictable. So what you do is you count up the number of calories that you expend in a day through activity and just through living, being alive, you expend calories. And then the calories that you take in a day. And if you are in a deficit, you are going to lose weight. For instance, if you want to lose 2 pounds per week every week, and it's not clockwork, even though we have the science and we know that you're in a deficit of this amount of calories, some weeks are just different than other weeks. Your body just responds in an odd fashion. But if you want to lose an average of about 2 pounds a week, you want to be in a 7,000 calorie deficit for that week. 3,500 calories equals 1 pound of body fat. So if you double that and you're in a 7,000 calorie deficit for a given week, you should lose about 2 pounds of body fat. I hope that makes sense. And again, I think the issue here is obvious. This is very, if not impossible, to stick to long term for the average person. Counting everything all day long, how many calories you burn, how many calories you eat every single time that you eat anything, every meal, every snack, everything, it becomes another job. It becomes another responsibility. It makes you constantly aware that you are dieting, which can be extraordinarily mentally fatiguing. And in almost no cases can this be maintained forever, long term. It's simply a means to an end to get body fat off for people that are dieting for an actual reason, like bodybuilders or people that are doing fitness competitions, things like this. So it is effective, and therefore I believe that coaches, and like our coaches, will do this for our clients. We take away that responsibility so they're not counting everything all day long and just wearing themselves out mentally doing that. And we just help them make better choices, and we know the calories that are in these foods, and we just help people make better choices. Then we kind of do that behind the scenes. And I think that's the role of a good coach, trainer, dietitian, or whoever. So, okay, so that's the 4 that I decided to pick for this video. But what if we start combining some of these techniques? We kind of pick and choose the best of each. So I think it's pretty obvious that we likely get better results, number 1, and number 2, we help ensure, insulate a person from weight regain. We install lifestyle habits that can be maintained more long-term, again, as a lifestyle, not as just a diet, a means to an end. We have to start thinking kind of like a chess match instead of checkers, not just looking for the next pound of weight loss, but what's going to happen inevitably when we do lose this weight. And if we combine these techniques, make the process simpler and more streamlined, we can actually make it a lifestyle that people can feel like they're losing weight and getting healthy without actually feeling like they're dieting. And that's really the trick. So to learn more about us and what we do, I will leave links in the description box below. And feel free to leave a comment about diets that you might want to know more about. I'd be happy to entertain doing a video on any of those as well. Until next time, everybody, stay happy, stay healthy, and I will catch everyone in the next video.